Welcome back to the Severed Floor. This episode's title is called Trojans. Yes, there's a S at the end. Trojans Horse, and this is episode 5. Let's get into it. The episode starts off with a guy wheeling a cart into optics and design and getting this tray of dental instruments, and then he wheels it back down the exports elevator. As we learned, that's what it's called. Then it heads over to the title sequence, of course, and I noticed that Irving's face is on a mug, so I think that might have been a secret Easter egg to saying that he was going to get terminated or that he's not going to be on the show anymore, or on the Severed Floor anymore. Also, Mark's balloon hopping thing looks like jumping off that middle sheet of ice. So I think that's why they left it out of the previous episode, is we would have had some Easter eggs or some hints of what's maybe going to happen this episode. And then we go back to Audi Mark in his house with that scientist lady. I think her name, I had to look it up, is Azal. She's living with him and she's keeping an eye to monitor him as he's done the reintegration to make sure that he doesn't die like Petey did from that. We go to Helena, not Helly, the Audi Helena Egan, being told by Natalie and Mr. I had to look this up too, Drummond, that they're not going to tell her father about the half-drowning incident at the team building retreat, but she does need to go back to the Severed Floor as Helly because Mark needs to finish the project. After Helly comes out of the elevator and is on the Severed Floor, she sees Mrs. Wong and is like, "Who are you?" And so everything from this season is not things that Helly has experienced, because the last episode, huge spoiler, last episode, it's been Helena Egan the entire time. Helly, Mark, and Dylan head to Milchek's office where they confront him of, where's Irving? And he keeps saying his Audi is on an extended cruise, and his Audi is on an extended cruise. Finally is like, you're not going to see him again. He has been terminated. He's essentially dead to you guys. They head back to macro data refinement and see that it's been modified to only have 3 desks now. So we are not going to be getting a 4th refiner to replace Irving, but they do convince Milchek to let them have a wake for him because to the innies, he's dead, So Milchek and Miss Wong are preparing for the wake, and they're grabbing stuff that would normally be for a retirement party, not a wake, because that's normally what they do is a retirement party when the innies are gonna die, And Miss Wong makes a weird comment about that they shouldn't have one because it makes them feel like people. They do this short eulogy for Irving, and then Milchek leaves them with a melon of his head. As Milchek and Miss Wong are about to leave, she gets cut off from playing the theremin, which is that instrument with the electric current thing. She was playing it when they were on the retreat outside, and they head to the hallway, but the way that he's talking to her, it's almost like he's talking to his daughter, because he says, you can play it for me later, and, we're not doing it right now. So that's a weird theory. Maybe it's bring your daughter to work day for him. Mark leaves the wake, and then Helly ends up chasing him down to confront him about how he's being kind of nonchalant about everything. Of course, he's embarrassed because he couldn't tell the difference between her and Helena. We then cut over to Milchek meeting with Natalie in the Lumen office to start his performance review. But first, he asks her how she felt about the Kier as her pictures that he had also received as a gift. And he's hinting that there's some company prejudices going on, and she doesn't acknowledge it, but it's kind of clear that she did have to overcome a lot of hurdles to get to her position, just like he's overcoming a lot of hurdles in his position. And then as Dylan is about to leave the wake, he notices a poster in the wall that says, "Hang in there." And so he flips over the poster to the back and finds a map to the exports elevator, which Felicia from Optics and Design, her and Bert were kind of the 2 main people in there. She gave a map to Irving when she found his drawing of the exports elevator. So Irving had left it as a failsafe, I guess, or was trying to hide it there. Easter egg, I guess, from the last episode that we finally figured out what happened with that odd phrasing that Irving left Dylan with. Milchek's performance review starts. Of course, it's a painful, awkward process. The Mr. Drummond guy lets him know that Cold Harbor, absolutely has to be finished and that it's a world-changing project. So that's very interesting. Milchek says, I'll do better and I'm going to tighten the leash on the team and make sure that Mark finishes this. Cuts back and forth with Mark working, and he starts to flip-flop to his Audi self. So the reintegration is starting to take more of a hold here. And then when he's leaving, Milchek confronts him in the elevator and says, basically, how was it being with the CEO's daughter kind of thing. But the way Mark's answering during that elevator scene, I almost feel like he might have been his Audi self, or he wasn't all fully there because he answers a little awkwardly some of the questions. Then we go over to Mark's sister Devin with her husband Rickon, who wrote that book, and they're talking about how the modified copy is telling workers to listen to company goals, don't wear a watch so you're not paying attention to the time, and all this kind of stuff, which is the opposite of what his book's goal was, which is free your mind and break the chains and that kind of thing. And so she's not super happy about how they're modifying the book, but then he is saying, well, this will help the innies be free in their mind, and this book is a Trojan horse, which is, of course, the episode title. We go over to Audi Irving making another phone call at the payphone to an unknown person and says, hey, I just got terminated. I think they might have known what I was up to or what we were up to on the severed floor. So I think there's your dual meaning. There's more than one Trojan horse going on here. Irving notices that Bert is watching him from across the street again and goes to confront him. Bert says, hey, I was recently terminated too. You knocking on the door as your severed self is kind of weird, so I followed you. I was terminated for having an inappropriate relationship at work, so do you think maybe we were an item or something? And then Bert invites him over to have dinner with him and his husband Fields. All three of them are going to meet up together and talk things over about the severed innie Audi termination. We go back to Mark's house with Azal, the scientist lady, looking through his wife's old things. She's telling him she's trying to kind of rattle him up and it will help with the reintegration, I guess. And Mark presses her to do another session of the tuning brain stuff that we saw before. And she tells him, let's wait one more day. It'll give you more time to settle. The episode ends with Audi Mark hearing Miss Casey's voice telling him things about his Audi self. And it looks like maybe he reintegrates because it seems like they're on the severed floor when he sees her face fully. All right, thanks again for joining me with that recap/spoiler review. I'm gonna be looking forward to episode 6 coming up. Feel free to like, subscribe, and leave your comments about what might happen in episode 6 below.